Hello there, yes, it's Matthew Miller. Yes, on this Eco Living podcast, I'm going to be talking about farms being stripped away and being turned to forestry, and it's undermining the community. And also, this over in the States, the health officials saying to come onto people's farms off that so-called COVID-19 hotspot, and of course, the media still gets scared out of that climate alarmism, which we don't see as much these days. It's more like the COVID-19 stuff now, especially what is happening here in New Zealand now. And of course, we are starting to get locusts across the world as well. Locusts, and they eat anything that's in their path. So, let's get to what this fellow say. Hawke's Bay Council maintained not pushing farming versus forestry approach for the region. See what this fellow's got to say?
Tonight, New Zealand's goal to be carbon neutral by 2050 is actually destroying rural communities. Productive sheep and beef farmland on the east coast is being blanketed in pine trees that may never be harvested. That's called carbon farming, growing trees for carbon credits but not for sale. Well, the emissions trading scheme makes carbon farming a financial windfall for landowners, often making it more lucrative than farming stock or milling the trees for export. And East Coasters fear an impending forestry boom will turn more of their communities into ghost towns.
Well, people, did you hear that? Because for what's happening, it's going to turn their community into ghost town. And yes, you know what it's all about? It's about taking us off our land into jam-packed city of this cobalt. Colin explains we are doing it if we don't manage code by 2030. See, it's all that fear-mongering people. They're trying to scare us to say that, oh, if we don't change our way, we are doomed. They always like to scare us, people. And because it's their agenda, people, and they say all that so-called stuff as well. And this is all garbage. They always make out those predictions. And things, they don't go as they predicted. Things are not going as predicted because it used to be global warming one time, but unfortunately, it didn't go as what the IPCC predicted, so they changed it to, you guessed it, climate change. And yet, they want to tell us, say, oh, with new tech, we can live it global warming to 2 degrees, which is just, it's all nonsense, people. It's all garbage. And there's that prick there, Ralph Conley says, oh, if we don't take, he says, the only rules is also mix up the state of climate action. Well, you don't need to take actions. And they're trying to tell us to get rid of those gasoline and with those and replace it with electric vehicles. Do you know those electric vehicles are not as environmental as the media tell you it is, because yeah, they had to mine for lithium, and yeah, lithium ion batteries. They're not for lithium, not lithium. They had to go and mine it, just like you had to mine for coal. And to find out, lithium ion batteries are actually more dangerous because they can explode. It's just like when because if you're going to get in an accident, if you're especially in an electric car, man, it'll burst into flames. Those things are dangerous cars to drive. And they probably emit radio, or of course they emit in their radiation, electromagnetic radiation or something from those electric cars, so so let's go back. Yeah, and of course, yeah, those. Well, let's get back to what this fella's saying.
Lisette Raymer reports.
East Coast locals reckon as the trees moved in, the heart and soul of rural New Zealand moved out.
A lot of people have moved away. Everyone's gone away to work because there's no work here.
Aaron Jones and his mates have lived in Tokumaru Bay their whole lives. They used to work on the farms that are now planted in pine.
I was fencing, tagging, docking,
The banks are long gone from the town, as is the post shop and the farm supply store. The local school is just hanging on, and so are the last of the locals.
It shouldn't be being planted because it is waste of land.
An hour's drive up a forestry-lined road and you get a glimpse of what all of this land once looked like. Pukituro is the sole survivor of sheep and beef farming in the area. Its boundary line is a constant reminder of the temptations of pine, with
Yep. Well, I probably forgot to turn my mic back on, and you probably missed me for saying something, so if you probably didn't hear me, you probably explain why. Because I forgot to turn my mic on. Yeah, and let's go to there. Feeding New Zealand food security will be a critical issue without government help. Well, we don't need government help. We should be able to grow our own food without any help from the government. We should be able to do it. We shouldn't be relying on government subsidies to grow our own food. We should be helping each other to live each other so we can survive as human beings for the times that's coming ahead. And yet, because people, there's war on farmers as well. It's part of Agenda 2030. That's what it's all about. So let's just move on, and yeah, and this one's from the Ice Age Farmer.
Ladies and gentlemen, strike teams are now being deployed to farms in California's Central Valley to ensure that appropriate distancing and worker protection measures are being taken. Looking at this article, the country's...
You hear what he said? He said that, strike teams are coming in people's farms. And this is very worrying. This is very worrying for the states, especially in California. Because they're just coming in there for the so-called COVID-19 virus. Because they're afraid there's going to be a virus in the farm.
Most productive farmland happens to now be one of its worst COVID-19 hotspots. Just as the meat packing factories that are the central points of failure in our country's meat process happened to be hotspots around the nation, and that caused millions of livestock to be culled because farmers and ranchers had no place to take their animals. Just as that happened earlier in the year, now that it's harvest season, so too does California's Central Valley happen to be one of our biggest areas of concern, according to Governor Gruesome Newsom. It just happens to be there where 25% of all American food is grown. That's more than half of all fruits, vegetables, and nuts. And mind you, America doesn't just feed itself. We are still feeding and exporting a lot of food to a lot of countries around the world. So,
yeah, you hear what he said? Because if America sort of goes under, it's going to really affect the world, people. It's going to really affect the world. And that's why we should be growing our own food. Now, of course, that's why they're trying to get us to stop me. Because of the virus and that, though. And of course, those animal rights are trying to use the virus to scare us from eating meat. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare us from eating meat. And you know why? Because so they can get you to eat that lab crap. That lab grown crap. Yeah, the lab grown fake meat. Yeah, that's why I call it lab crap, because it's crap. No nutrition whatsoever. And they're going to tell us 3, and of course KSC's already doing it. Let's go to that now. And yeah, there they are. Let's from the KSC is debating lab-grown 3D printed chicken nuggets. They're all doing that, and let's go and see that. Yes. It's about a lab-grown 3D printing. Sounds crazy to hear us out, because it is crazy. Our goal is combine plant material, chicken cells to both taste. Yet see, you wouldn't have to know to kill it into. Yeah. Yeah, so-called environmental benefit, but it will create an adder to antibiotics or factory farming. Yeah, because all that so-called greenhouse gases though, and that's what they're trying to do, trying to scare us off from eating meat. So they can get us to eat that lab-grown garbage. Yes, the lab-grown garbage. That's what it's all about. It's not there to get us healthy. It has nothing to do with saving the planet. It has nothing to do with animal welfare. It has nothing to do with it. And yes, recently KSC officially announced a partnership with Russia's research laboratory called 3D bioprinting solution to start working the meat of the future. Yeah, trying to 3D printer with no nutrition whatsoever. Yeah, and although with the breeding of spices need to achieve the significant KSC taste. Wow, so they're trying to get us to stop eating the real stuff and to eat that lab-grown garbage. The reason why I call it garbage is because it is garbage. And they want us to eat it. And that Harvard wants to deceive you, sell lab-grown protein meat without telling you. They want to just say, oh, it's the real stuff, but I know it's lab-grown, but we ain't going to tell you. Yet, from Harvard University over in the States. Yeah, and let's move on to here and yes, of course, what they want to get us is trying to get us to be nutrition deprived, and when we nutrition deprived, diseases come and it kills us both. So let's go and move on. And of course, yeah, those people that think they're going to get a deal from going into climate, and yet, like, of course, there's that Muppet. It is that Muppet John that's saying that global warming's been. Yeah, it has been warming, but as it sort of warming from the, like, say, 1900s, and it sort of continued up to the 1940s, then it sort of cooled down a little bit to the 1970s, then from the 1980s, then it warmed up again to now, so it has nothing to us, has nothing to do with us, though. That's why I'm wearing this t-shirt. It's not CO2, it's not you, it is the sun. And those actors, though, those actors think they're gonna get something out for taking action on climate. It has nothing to do with it. Lucy Norris, you are just a pawn. The elites don't even care about you, and there's that. And yeah, lady, it's almost in the 20s. Sophie Hanford. Well, do you know what, Sophie? You're just a pawn to the elite's agenda. You're just a pawn. A pawn. And it has and you're all being deceived. And if you did what the elite said, you ain't going to get the reward that you're hoping for, because the elites, they don't care about you. All they care about is having world for themselves. And like Bill Gates and that though, that's why they're investing a lot in lab grown meat. He ain't gonna eat it, but they want us to eat it. So now, of course, there's people that are looking at solution to the real environmental issues. Yep, plastic and there's the one there. Yeah, there's one shot there, and yet he's doing the ocean cleanup. See, he's the man. He's really doing the real work. Yeah, he's the one. He's tackling the real issue of plastic as well. He's tackling it head on, and he's been building like boats that's like it's called ocean cleanup, and just got a conveyor belt and just keeps it filling up until it's fully full, and then gets emptied out and that or something. And see, that's how you tackle the real issue though. He's the man. And this is from oceancleanup.com, and if you want to look it up, you can go on search it on either on Google or DuckDuckGo something, and there's also another fellow that's also inventing, also showing that before a go ration for home compostable cling wraps. Not sure if it will work or not, but he's still looking at solutions. And see, these are people. Answer is capitalism, not socialism. Socialism will always bring you a nightmare scenario. And now it's time that we move on to the food issues. And yes, this one's from David Devine though on Adapt 2030, and which I ain't going to go to that now. And yes, let's go to that now and let's see what he's got to say.
Talking about food, I'm reading this incredibly crazy story about in Texas where people are kidnapping horses and then butchering them for food.
Well, people, you heard what he said? He said that, like, people are going out stealing horses and butchering for food because the people know things are at stake. So, let's continue.
And they're finding that it's the same group of people that seem to be abducting the horses and then butchering them for a food source. You know, this happened during the Great Depression, where they found that the woods in the forest were completely hunted out because people were bringing it all the way down to the size of people were looking to eat sparrows at that time.
Wow.
In the 1930s, when the population on Earth was 4 times lower than it is now. So when we're talking about food today and the price is getting out of control for a lot of people, this is the end result already here in Texas. Startling as it is, but you can see the direction it's going and how important keeping food prices under control is going to be. So Bob, welcome.
Well, you heard what he said? Yep, food prices going out of control, and man, I'm going to be about to show you why. And that's one of the reasons, but there's also many reasons why food's going out of control. And yes, of course, they want to, with all that COVID-19 stuff as well, that's why they're staying to be with those strike teams and so what the Ice Age Farmer had just talked about. Just going on people fast for that so-called COVID-19 virus nonsense. So, just trying to say there's a virus on the farm and that just scaring people. That's all they're all doing. So, well, let's just move on to the next part. And he talks about locusts. Yeah, locusts. You know what? If you haven't heard about locusts, people, I'm about to show you. There it is, right there, locusts. There it is. There, look at that. And boy, people, these are locusts and they are eating machines, people. And they do go through your crops and just eat anything that's in their path. And boy, wow. Oh boy, wow. Locusts. And they even got an ancient picture on it. Man, looks well done though, even in ancient times. Wow, but that's not even a laughing matter, people. Locusts, they cause dangers to crops, people, and man, oh man, and we're about to go to that, people, and let's go to... And there we go.
And then we need to add the locusts that should be here probably in the first week of September. I saw a couple locusts out here in Tennessee yesterday when I was out of my land. I'm living in a camper van right now, and I'm working, living in here, and then I'm trying to go out to my land daily to try to make improvements out there and get the greenhouses ready to put in so we'll be able to grow year round in the winter. I saw 2 locusts out there yesterday, and the locusts are coming up from Mexico. They're expected to be here at the height of maturation for the U.S. crops. That's a terrible thing that they got sideline wind like that, because you have to realize between 60 and 80 mile an hour wind.
Well, people, you hear what he said? He said locusts may come. And man, if that's the case, that is a real problem for the crops around the USA. There'll be a real problem. And man, you know what locusts is? They are eating machines. They will just eat anything that's in their path. So let's just continue.
Winds and 5-foot tall corn crops with a dense leaf, that's just a leverage push right over, and it's gonna complete loss. Once those things are snapped, they're not coming back.
Yeah, people.
But then add into that on top of what the locusts would be, what kind of damage they would do, because we can't spray our crops heavily enough to be able to even mitigate that. And these swarms are vast, and with the nature's cue, that'll be their last time to feed and breed before the winter sets in. So the locusts are going to be in an urgency of extreme. They're going to intake as much green vegetative matter as they can to do what nature does. It's about survival. And we're the same way too as human species. We've seen these cycles come and go, and I'm still so surprised that with all the politics going on and with all the crop losses and with all these things about food and food inflation and China losing its production for the year, why nobody's really talking about food across the greater media. Maybe 1 out of 20 articles might reference something about food, but it being such the most important part of our civilization to keep our civilization moving, I just can't believe there's not more focus on getting the individual citizen ready. Bob and I are here talking about you as a person getting your individual finances ready, protecting whatever you have in terms of wealth assets ready on an individual basis. Why isn't the mainstream media or corporate media talking about getting you as the individual ready on your food growing individual protection basis?
Yeah, exactly. Matt, I know I'd like to show you more, but it's starting to get quite long in the video, so I am just going to leave it there at there. So if you want to watch more in the video, I'll have a link down there below if you want to watch more of it. So locusts, he's been talking about, and Matt, there's been news been covering about it as well. And people with locusts are saying, Matt, I'm not sure what the solutions are, how to tackle the issue. Locusts are the plague of political scope in 2020. Why and why they are exactly? Well, people, Swarm of locusts fly above the Kina village, 100 billion to insect Hawaii, Kenya, destroying farmlands. And boy, when it comes to the state, there's going to be a real problem, people. There's going to be a real problem. Wow. Gosh. Yeah, cause look at that. It will just, it will ruin. It's gonna be a big problem for agriculture. And man, this is here. That's how in Pakistan, there people suffered the worst locust problem for 25 years. Wow, people. And they are powerful long distance flies. They can easily go for 100 plus kilometers on a 24-hour period. So people, how does locusts? Wow, they are notorious. They are wow, people. Wow. How countries are fighting locusts as well. How they doing? We'd like to get them too. How they know. They're spraying cheese there for to kill locusts. Yeah, shoot. These are Ugandan soldiers in there for the killing them. Well, people, and it's also not just in Africa, but also in China as well. And also not just locusts, but they're getting floods as well. And boy, the swarm locusts had destroyed crops in China and the Yuan provinces as the country braced for more flooding in other regions. Yeah, that's the real problem. Well, people, yeah, that is a real problem with all those locusts. And how are we ever going to repel them as well with those locusts? And boy, people, that's a real problem. And we would like to get to the solution to how we can actually repel them or something. For me, I don't have all the answers. And man, if you have all the answers, man, please leave it in the comments below. Because, man, we need to talk about how we're going to tackle the issue. Because that's going to be an issue. It's going to be something that's going to be the new norm in with the agriculture sector. And people, we need to help out with the farmers as well, because they're having their farms taken, because it's all part of Agenda 21 as well. And let's go to, of course, Jeremy Clarkson starts a farm on the onset of a grand soil amendment. He probably knows something's what's coming, and good on him. Yeah, he had the YouTube video about potatoes, and good on him. Because he did have that, and about the potatoes and that though, and of course, and now I'm going to go back to, look at that there, and incoming big freeze for Australia, which, wow, I only just found out now, and of course, Greenland though, and you can see what's happening on Greenland. They've been getting been getting record breaking though. Yeah, look at that. See, people, look at that. The media will say, oh, Greenland's melting. Well, the melt season only lasts for a very short time, and that tends to be one of the shortest times, and it was still at a record high, like around August or something, but then we weren't getting any satellite images anymore after this as well. Once the soil peaked, we weren't getting any more satellite images anymore. This is from 10th August, a week ago, and You can see how Greenland's doing. Look like it's doing fine. It's been getting more ice than they're usually getting. So, and yes, for all the food and that, yeah, of course. States secretly stockpiling food to the roof. Cause they know what? They know something is coming. They know that the soil amendment is coming. The locusts said they know. But they're not going to tell you about it as well. Because they know why. Because it's not in their interest. That's the reason why we have to do podcasts like this as well. Especially in New Zealand with people's complacency. And yes, of course, with complacency comes with vulnerability, and we gotta need to help each other, and I just hope people will wake up and start growing their own food, because that's what we need. And we need to start helping as a community if we are going to survive in the times ahead. Especially with the economy, with the lockdowns and that as well, and of course, yeah, if Jacinda Ardern does win this election though, boy, we are definitely going to be in a communist dictatorship, and people are going to be poor, and once people are going to be poor, and once poverty, it brings diseases. And it could even bring the bubonic plague. Because once people's immune system weakens, it's going to be make them more vulnerable to illnesses and that though. And that's why we can't have her to win the next election, people. Although it's been delayed, which I'm going to have another video about it as well. So I'll see you on that one as well. So I guess that's all I got to say. I hope you got something out of this video, people, and this is all I got to say for now. It's Matthew Miller, signing off, over and out.